Are you feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, or like something is just standing in your way of feeling your best self? Today, I'm talking with Dr. Onna Lo, who is a burnout specialist, and she's got some amazing tips for you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Miranda Naylor. I am a board certified functional medicine doctor and women's hormone and fertility specialist. I'm so excited today to talk with my colleague, Dr. Onna Lo, who is an Ivy League trained functional medicine doctor, a high performance coach, and she specializes in reversing and preventing burnout. Dr. Lo, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yeah, I'm very excited. This topic is near and dear to my heart. And I know that your audience are predominantly women who has a purpose. And I think it is often that we forget to look at how our stress environment and what are all the sea of challenges we live in life that are actually holding us back from the outcomes we want to see in life, right? The life we want to move on, which includes starting a family.
Absolutely. Yes, my population is very much women who are really trying to feel their best, do amazing things in life, not only get pregnant, but really have healthy pregnancies, healthy children. So, definitely, I think this of burnout is going to resonate with so many women. And it's something that I've seen so commonly lately in my practice, especially since the pandemic. I think so many of us, especially those of us who are high achieving, are getting really burned out or have been burned out. So I'm really happy that we're talking about this. So I think we can shed a lot of light on this topic for people who might not be aware of what's going on for them. So I want to ask you first a little bit more about yourself. How did you get into this field? How did you come to specialize in burnout?
Yeah. The funny thing is, I think I was burnout even when I was like in fourth grade. I started off coming into it with a physical burnout because I think a lot of people don't identify themselves with the word burnout, but you all know when you are feeling physically imbalanced, you're physically tired, or you're mentally feeling not resilient, mentally feeling overwhelmed, brain foggy, or just can't really grasp that focus, or maybe emotionally, right? Feeling very irritable or feeling anxious or depressed and sad and just not in balance. And that's really when I came into it. I was fourth grade, I was young, and I was just getting sick all the time. I actually had severe ulcer. I had to go into the hospital. I would always have migraines and I would have terrible periods, but I just was a stressed out kid. I had a purpose. I wanted to get into medical school, even as a high school student. And I got into medical school into an 8-year program. So I was just dedicated. I had a purpose, but I was super type A and perfectionist. And so it's something that I have to learn for me to just keep enjoying and finding life and finding success while consistently having balance and health and that mental resilience and that emotional joy. I had to learn. And so that's how I came across high performance coaching. And I saw that a lot in my patients. A lot of my functional medicine patients came because they were exhausted, they were overwhelmed, and they were starting just to have their physical body breaking down. And I saw that as a very crucial pattern for those women also.
Yeah. You've brought up some really key points in that. One that I wanted to go into is what are some of maybe the root causes that can make us more prone to getting into burnout or
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's two ways I actually like to think about it. I think one, and a lot of us might identify, is that I often say when there's a misalignment of what we prioritize in life. I think a lot of people, when they are their mind or the body or the spirit, how they engage it is actually misaligned in the wrong place, the wrong job, the wrong relationship, the wrong purpose. Because often we invest our time and energy when it's misaligned, we have a lot of resistance, right? We have a lot of irritation, we have that internal turmoil, and that is very energy consuming. And
Mhm.
so I think that misalignment is a very common root cause. And the second one is actually we might have a very clear desire and clarity of what we want. And we're always just high performance, and type A's does that a lot. We have great tools and we have great goals and we have great tasks, but we actually don't have healthy, sustainable habits.
Mhm.
Either the most typical habits is we're going to do it all by ourselves. No one else can do it as well as we do. Or it's better if I do it. If I have to tell someone else, teach them how to train it, it's already too late. So not having a team. Or oftentimes is that I'm just going to keep doing it until I get it rather than realizing you're exhausted. You've not slept. You've not been eating well, or you're not developing the right relationships that are also nurturing to you. So not having the right habits that connects your desire to the outcomes that you want to see or the goals that you're actually establishing.
I love that. I love that perspective of it because it's, for one, so many of us who get to amazing places, really successful people, oftentimes get there by just working their asses off, working really hard and doing all those things that you described. And yeah, it's almost like it's rewarded that those skills are ingrained in us because it's served us well, but then it gets to the breaking point. And so that's amazing having that shift of learning then the skills of having balance and being able to make it sustainable. And I love that you talk about the alignment also, because I think too, some people see success as maybe making a lot of money or doing something that they think they're supposed to do. And they might be working extra hard trying to do that because it's out of alignment of what they really want to do, what they're really passionate about. And that is, yeah, working uphill. So
Oftentimes that goal might not be ours, right? I think
Mhm.
especially around career, I see a lot of burnout that's from just professionals who are in a career because it was the right thing. It was what was suggested and recommended, and it creates security and job safety and financial rewards. And I think those are all wonderful and amazing. I think we all should celebrate abundance because they give us freedom to do what we love and have the family and life that we want. I think we get to also fine tune it to then actually start bringing more of that balance of joy and impact
Mhm.
together.
Yes, agreed. Oh, I love that. And this is also something you mentioned a little bit, but what are the signs that maybe we could see that would clue us into either we're getting burnt out or we already are burned out?
Yeah. First of all, I think one of the most important note to think about is most people don't think about burnout until they're like fully just fall apart and right exhausted. They're getting really sick. They're getting a diagnosis. There's usually something that's just very rude awakening that says, hey, you're hitting rock bottom. Most of the time, it's a spectrum and it wax and wane. There are good days and there are bad days, and it doesn't happen overnight. So that's something that's really important to think about. It's really more just like the resilience and the joy is really what you're looking for, and anything from that is just good habits that kind of keep you in the right direction. Again, it's mental. I break it down to mental, physical, and emotional components. And the biggest piece to think about it is you're just having less resilience because most people actually, we all have good days and bad days. We can all bounce back. But what
Mhm.
happened with burnout is that you just find that you are not bouncing back the next day, the next week, the next month. A year later, you're still hating what you're doing. A year later, you're still feeling constantly drained, no matter how much you rest. The mental component, I think a big one is actually brain fog. You just can't,
Mhm.
you're struggling to concentrate, you're struggling to focus, you're struggling to actually integrate new ideas and thoughts. That's a huge one. And then in terms of emotional, it's mood swings. You feel agitated easily, you feel irritable easily, you feel uninterested, you feel like just it's not you just don't have that excitement, right? How often have you actually received a phone call from someone that you really enjoy talking, you just get excited and within a moment you just got that rise of energy. People who are burnt out get the opposite. Either they just get that rise of irritation or agitation, or they just lose interest. And then I think most importantly is just physical symptoms. People get sick more easily. People get more aches and pains. People get more hormonal imbalances. And those are the symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people can probably identify that to some degree, even if it's not full burnout. I think we have those moments where our bandwidth is smaller if we've had a really stressful day, for example. We're like, I just can't handle one more thing. You can have that feeling of I don't want to talk to this person, even if you love that person. You usually love talking with them. I think those are great examples. And those can be really good clues, whether we are in full burnout or if we're getting there, like we're having more of those days where we just don't want to take on extra. We don't feel that resilience. Those are great points to point out. And if someone is feeling this a lot, they're feeling like they're in that place, maybe they're questioning if they're burnt out or they're sure they're burnt out. What's the first thing that you recommend they start doing?
Yeah. I think that, I think having an audit would be good. I always think, even from my functional medicine practice, I think I always use the word acknowledge. And I think I'm super data driven in my practice and in my coaching practice. I find that if we actually have the clarity to articulate what it is that we're feeling, and rating it and saying, okay, how's my energy? How's my clarity? How's my productivity? How's my mood, right? Being able to actually just find, there's a great high performance index that you actually can fill out that's been well studied. And by filling that out, you get a sense of where you are. And then you can decide what you want to do. And then you can actually, whatever actions you take, then you can actually just say, how does it feel a month later when I just started, maybe taking more baths? Or maybe I actually just take a walk at the end of my work day for 15 minutes and actually just come back and see if that little change made a difference in the scoring.
Mm.
The other piece, so that's more the just giving yourself the ability to not feel like this big feeling that we have that often I think when we're stressed out, it feels like a lot of emotions and it's hard to quantify it. So by being able to objectively audit it, then you can actually say, okay, I can actually do something a little. And then if it was just one thing that anyone who just, I'm in a cocktail party, you pull me aside and you say, ask me that one question. I think it's simply remembering that because most people, when they're burnout, they're just trying to be productive. They're trying to get things done. They're trying to move forward. Is to remember energy prioritization. Energy prioritization is the number one rule of productivity. So if you're trying to be productive, it's not about working more, blocking time, waking up 5 a.m, like everything that we've learned from reading all these books or hearing it from social media. It's actually remembering that you can't actually do anything productive if you don't have energy. Prioritizing energy, however it means for you, it's the first step.
Oh, that's a great one. That's, I think, such a key takeaway. And that's something that I always remind, I personally, as someone who identifies as high achieving, somewhat type A, and an entrepreneur, I have to notice that for myself too. That's something that I don't have a formal audit, which I love that idea though, to have a formal audit that we can really check in on those, but really having that awareness around ourselves to be able to even do a quick check-in and see where we're at and what we need, and keep in mind that you have to build in, I remind myself I have to build in time to take care of myself and nourish myself so that I can perform at my best. Because for me, my job is being there for people and having my brain on, ready to go, ready to be fully present with people. And so if I'm not taking good care of myself, then I can't show up at my best. So absolutely, it's like taking that investment of yourself. And I love that you talk about that, like energy prioritization.
It pulls back to actually habits, right? Remember, we talk about why people burn out often is we have the desire, we have goals and tasks, right? You have the desire to help people and get them to the outcome that they need. And you have the goals and tasks, you meet them a certain time, you schedule, and you have your high expectations and delivery and standards. But it's the habits. And I think once you understand, okay, energy prioritization, it's what you need to do, what you need, then the habits could involve what you say, just like you say, block time for yourself. That could include separating yourself physically out, block space and time. And a very simple one, actually, for a lot of my women clients and patients is actually just taking a bath. When you take a bath, no one's going to knock on your door as much. You lock the door, you're in the bath, you already drew it. So you're not going to like in and out, and then put some Epsom salt, which is magnesium, super relaxing for you. Sometimes if you can't do that, it's just even having a lock space that you can go away out of your room to just into a room and just lock that space. And I laugh because I burned out when I was 4th grade, but I actually would used to hide and just take a book and go to the bathroom stall at school and just take a moment and rest and be away from people. And so it's consciously creating space and time for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. You just can't bring your phone with you now. Let me notice myself, take a relaxing bath, and then I start like working from my phone. And I'm like, what am I doing here? That defeats the purpose. I want to take a step back. You mentioned previously the hormone imbalance. A lot of my patients and a lot of my people in my community are concerned about their hormones, especially if they're trying to get pregnant. So I would love to talk a little bit more of how this can play into our hormones and our reproduction.
We can't talk about basically what we're talking about is just a form of stress, right? Like when we're just stressed out over a period of time of chronic stress, our body affects the energy, affects the physical, mental, and emotional self, and we're just less resilient. And in this chronic state of constant stress, right? When we're misaligned, we're stressed out about doing things we don't want to do. When we're misaligned without time and space and energy, we're stressed out about how much work we have to do, focus we're to do, being around people we won't want to be around, or missing meals, missing other things that are important to us. And so when we're in that chronic stress, what really happened is that our cortisol is high, and over time, our body prioritizing surviving, fight or flight and surviving. And as a result, the way to actually keep making more cortisol for us to survive is start stealing away from the estrogen, the testosterone, the thyroid, and the progesterone, all of the key hormones of vitality. And that's really a lot of the reasons why we're actually tired. It's when we connect burnout to lab tests, you see a very direct correlation.
Absolutely. And I love that you're bringing up these words like resilience over and over again, because it's something that I'm talking with my patients all the time about. Again, especially when they're worried about their fertility, they're trying to get pregnant. We really have to think about all of our energy and all of the stresses that come into our body, whether it be the mental, emotional stress, the overworking stress, if it's just an infection and our body's working overtime on something, or if we're exercising too much, we're doing too much biohacking, talking about all those, like an inventory of all of those stressors. And you're absolutely right. If we're producing a lot of cortisol, if our body's getting a message that we're in fight or flight, that we're having like starvation, war, famine, something going on that's that serious, it's like, no, reproduction is cut off.
Yeah. One thing I want to bring up, because I wonder if you have similar audience as my audience, is that a lot of my high performers, they're super smart. They know, they read up, they are paying attention how to eat well, how to live well, how to make good choices. They're reading good books on habits. And so a lot of times it's actually not revamping, but refining. And I think that there's just so much information out there that sometimes it's actually just how do you understand enough to then personalize it for yourself. And that's where the audit really matters, right? When you audit yourself from you, I'm sure there's a way to actually rate how your system is, your health is, all the symptoms are. And for me, on top of that is also having the habits, having the mental health, the emotional health. And once you identify that, actually, we're super resilient. Just giving the right tool. It might just be for some is vitamins. Some people is actually eating a certain way different. Some people is actually being around different influences and people. And so for some people is actually like really focusing on sleep. But it's not actually about doing like a high performer, like type A approach, which is like everything needs to be done for you to feel the way you do. Is
Mhm.
actually just highlighting what are the some key areas for you to focus on, and you'll get the result of feeling more resilient right away.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up because that is such an important conversation to have. Because yes, especially when patients are coming to me, they have been trying to do everything. They have been educating themselves, and there's so much information out there where they're overwhelmed. They're trying everything. They don't know what to do, and they have this long should list. I know I should be exercising more. I should be eating better. I should be like, they know all these things and they're just trying to do all of it. And so the number one thing that we do is we simplify and refine things down, and I help guide people through that. It's going to be really hard to do. And we use the testing and data, like you're saying, to do that for them. Okay, for you, you actually don't have to worry about Y and Z, but you do have to worry about A, B, and C. These are the things for you to focus on, and here's how to do it. And so it actually is usually simplifying things down and then also taking that stress down. So absolutely, I agree. That's such an important
One
focus.
image that I use when I coach is actually like you are in the sea, this deep sea out swimming, and there's the island that you want to get to. And often when we're just swimming towards the island, there are just little, depending on your fear factors, it could be like little sharks, it could be like little things that are just resistant, big waves that are just distracting you forward, right? I think there's health, but then there's also like resistance, our internal resistance, our doubts, right? Challenges that comes up, time, or for me, like having teenagers, they just prevent you from swimming towards the island. And again, there's the desire and the outcome. The goal is let's just keep swimming. And sometimes we just get so many goals and we just overpopulate that list. And so I think the high performance habit is really about the first and foremost, what's the clarity, right? The clarity through the audit, but it's the clarity of what is the one thing? What is the two things? What is the littlest thing? What is the most efficient thing? So that it's actually just building a habit around clarity. And just every time we get distracted, or every time there's a judgment in our mind, or every time there's someone who keeps asking you and take competing interests, right? That takes you away from that focus. You say, my clarity is that I want to get to this place. And that's why I need to keep focusing on and coming back to it.
Yeah, I love that. And that's another thing that I found personally really helpful to like, because we can also have shiny object syndrome of, oh, I should be doing this and this and this. I want to write a book. I want to have a podcast. I want to, whatever it is. And you're right, like finding the things that are the most important, the one or two most important things, and focusing on those. Yeah. Well, wonderful. Have there been any things that you found in your practice, in your experience, that have been like a game changer for women in burnout or women who are trying to optimize their performance?
Yeah. I'm always going to pitch for the physical health, right? Because if we have the physical energy, it really does make a difference. I think the biggest game changer is, especially for my high performance women, where they are in life. They're smart. They clearly have proven that their track record, you can get things done if you just put your mind to it. So those are not an issue. So I think the number one thing I always remind all my patients and clients is that it's the who, not the how and the what. I'm sure there's actually a book out there about it, but I think what it is, I was recently reading a study and it talked about even as young as a teenager, boys and men actually distracts when we're in distress. But women and young girls, adolescent girls, actually discuss as a way of coping when we're in distress. And so by actually embracing that idea is that when we're stressed, actually find your people, right? We are our community, and find your people, find your top 5 counsel, find your team to actually process that. Of course, right? Find the people that are forward moving, positive. They're there to also just to hold space, finding the right people. But having your team and have that accessible to you is super important.
Absolutely. Community is everything. I think a lot of us learned that after the pandemic as well, that wow, community and being outside of community can be absolutely a game changer. It's also interesting, the male versus female aspect. I feel like that's a good relationship tip that you just gave too, or a little, like a little tidbit. You've mentioned this already a little bit, but I'd love to go back a step. And are there any ways that we can prevent burnout outside of the things that maybe we've already talked about?
Yeah, yeah. It all goes back, I think it all goes back to habits. There's some rooted from what I do for my training for my clients is that it actually was studied. There was this questionnaire that was sent out to hundreds of thousands of people. And they found that regardless of race, gender, socioeconomic status, education, and income level, high performers just have certain specific habits that regardless of those different status, they still are just high performers who can have sustained success without burning out or without compromising their health or their relationships. And so the habits is actually really the most important piece. And it really starts by having a very clear practice, a clear mental clarity, right? Being able to, and that's when meditation is really helpful. You're like, why is that? Meditation is actually being able to create more single focus into something so that you're in the present, not in the past or not in the future. And so you're more likely every time you're distracted by a shiny object or you're distracted by your judgment of, oh, how this is going to affect my future. Or, oh, I regretted something I did. And rather than being in the present, you're actually practicing holding a steady mindset and being clear about what you want and having that habit of practicing keeping your mindset steady, keeping your clarity steady. And then around prioritizing energy, right? Having habits that really matters, resting, eating, and then moving. Those are actually some just well understood mechanisms that takes care of our body. And then finally is just having healthy habits around time management. And that could be a whole other hour of conversation. But having healthy habits of saying no and healthy habits of developing relationship with the people around you. So those are all really important pieces for preventing burnout.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like those are central to our overall well-being anyway, right? That we like to skip over sometimes. Oh, I need to eat. And eat regular meals that are nutritious and keep my energy going. I need to get enough sleep. I need to get some rest in between there. And I feel like all these tips you're giving are really going together. When we get our clarity, we have our goals in front of us, then making sure we're keeping in mind, okay, here's how I have to take care of myself to get there. Here's how I have to plan my time to get there. I love that. And what would you say, again, you've given so many amazing pearls, but is there any other, like your top piece of advice that you would give to someone who's high performing?
Yeah. It goes back to a simple audit. And the way I actually have people visualize this is think about what is it that you'd like to feel at the end of every day when you come home?
Mm.
That's really a way for you to be able to ask and acknowledge what's the alignment you're truly looking for and a general sense. Do you want to just feel ease? Do you want to feel like actually a lot of patients say just self care or care? A lot of people want to talk about service. So I think it's finding a clarity of what is the feeling you want to be aligned with at the end of every night. And one way to remember that could either be set an alarm for yourself first thing in the morning so that it shows up, be like, hey, remember, these are two words that you want to, that's how you want to show up in the world. I actually prefer to do it at 5 p.m. because then it comes up as, hey, did you show up with these two words in your life? And then I have like about 4 hours to adjust that. And whether it's just slow down, have a lovely conversation with my kids, or whether it's just making sure that I actually like just be more mindful about what I'm eating or actually go to bed a little bit earlier rather than just watch another Netflix show. So that would be a really great way just to commune with yourself.
Oh, I love that. That's a great idea. Because I think it's right. We have these big goals, and it isn't very often that we're showing up every day for ourselves to check in and say, am I in alignment? Sometimes I think about it like, what would like my highest self? Some is maybe like kind
Exactly.
of maybe aligns with this like spiritual aspect, but like in certain situations, especially when I'm torn, what should I do? I try to think, what would my highest self want to do? How do I really want to show up? Like you said, how do I want to show up in the world? And that could also go along with what legacy do I want to leave behind? Or what do I want to be known for if someone's trying to be big and famous? Or I think that's a great way of looking at it. Who is the person that I want to be? And every day checking in with how you're doing with that. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Again,
What is your word?
oh my goodness. I don't know if I have a single word. Patience is, I guess, is a very important word for me, especially with young kids. Patience
Mhm.
is very important for me. And just being calm, present in my professional life, really showing up. Like I mentioned before, really wanting to be present with people, but really truly
Yeah.
being in support of their highest self as well, their potential, and really honoring my own
Yeah.
potential also so that I can show up for
Yeah.
that.
So exactly, right? When you see that that's your island, you're gonna swat away the Netflix show. I think sometimes it's hard, but you're gonna swat away, right? Things that are gonna take away or this extra 3 hours of thing that's gonna drain you when you just know that's your island, right?
Yes.
So that's great.
Yeah, or at least make those choices more mindfully. I think sometimes
Yeah.
we can get that sense of, okay, I cannot handle just Netflixing tonight. I need to take that bath or I need to do a meditation. And sometimes it's, oh, maybe I want to connect with my partner and watch a
Mhm.
comedy. And that is actually the thing that I need. So I think exactly you can be so much more mindful about
Yeah.
your habits when you're having that echo through every single day. Oh,
Yeah.
any other tips that you want to leave the listeners with?
I can go on.
So many.
I have a whole year of material because I think it really starts with habits, right? Once we have good habits, then we're really talking about who's the heart that's really making the desires. Like then you're really just engaging into your humanity of like what is really service mean to you? What is really community? What is connection? What is care really look like to you? So I think like habits is the first foundation. When people are just stressed out all the time, or you just feel like overwhelmed, you feel like, hey, not if you're not even feeling overwhelmed, but you have this curiosity, is like, how can I actually just be more efficient? Is there a fuel that I can just, like that's just not diesel, but actually just burn like more clean and actually get me there faster and easier and I feel more ease? That's what the habits is about. And so once you finish with the habits, then you get to just really experience the inner drive to say, what is the alignment I'm looking for? Like to what? And so after that, then you have fun. You're looking at resistance, right? You're looking at day-to-day experiences, challenges in life. And so you actually start enjoying challenges. You start looking at every opportunity that comes your way or everything that comes your way that might be difficult. You're starting to look at them as gifts and opportunities and have a different feeling and energy towards it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I'm excited about this work.
Yeah. Beautiful. Again, you've given so many incredible tips. So this is going to be so helpful to, I think, so many women. On that note, if someone needs more help with this, where can people find you? How can they work with you?
Yeah. I have Instagram and TikTok. So you can find me at Onna Lo, MD, ONNALOMD. And I do have a coaching program. So it's under my website, onnalomd.com. And there's a high performance coaching section. And I'm launching actually a mastermind or a group. It's really, I believe it's about, skills of habits, but also about community. We learn so much when we are in community with other women or high performers. And so I'm launching this program that is very easygoing, very gentle, and it's really just to provide just creating lanes. If you think about in the ocean, you just the swimming lanes so that you're like it keeps off the sharks and keeps you focused. And so I'm launching that in the new year to just support people to get to the life that they want to see and love doing what they do.
Amazing. That sounds fantastic. Oh, wonderful. And I'll link all of that too in the show notes. So thank you so much, Dr. Lowe. This has been, again, so helpful, such a wonderful conversation. And I really appreciate you being with me here today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here and grateful to meet your audience.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.